If you have a story that you think would make a good episode, and you don't mind being recorded, please contact us via the email or Reddit links in the description. We have already started producing Season 3, and this time we're including your stories as well as ours. All events depicted in this podcast are real. However, the names, locations, and some details have been changed for the privacy of those involved. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire, a podcast that above all things is about family. Have you got hold of Aria yet? No, because I can't get hold of her. Like, I've been trying to message her, but she's not answering. I think she got on a drink last night. I think she was out. Having siblings is pretty cool. Are you recording yet? More than just being close friends who you choose to hang around with. If you want to start recording now, and then hopefully we manage to get hold of Aria and we'll bring her in. Siblings are more like randoms that have been forced upon you. So much so that whatever irritating and overbearing things that you do have been endured for so long that they have become tolerable.
Right, I'm recording now too.
What was that noise?
That was you making a thumb.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. And you don't need to worry about unimportant things, like being patient with each other. That's for friends, not family. All right, I'm gonna message her again. I'm sick of waiting.
I mean, she looks like she's online, but
hey,
you never know.
Ass bag. We are meeting at 9, not 10. Where are you? Exclamation mark. Then angry face. There we go. In fact, some of my best sibling entertainment comes from knowing that I can be a downright pest and still get away with it. Well, it's all about the editing, right? Getting it all edited together. Ooh, did she send a massage? She didn't send a goddamn massage.
Maybe she's turning the computer on.
Maybe. I'm gonna message her
again.
I'll do it on the other phone. I'll do it on the phone messenger rather than the other one. That should piss her off. And what's even more fun is knowing how much Aria is going to hate it when she realizes that this is how I'm choosing to start this episode. What is she doing? Ugh, why isn't she answering? All right, I'm gonna message her again. I think. No, man, I've already messaged her so many times. I'm gonna call her again.
She's gonna be like, I fucking hate this. Stop calling me.
I'll put it on speaker. She's gonna love this. Come on, pick up the phone.
You know you wanna.
God, pick it up.
The person you are calling is not available. Please leave a short message. And it will
she's definitely ignoring now.
Oh, she's on.
Fucking hell, I was having my fucking breakfast.
You could have just sent a message back and said, sorry, I'm busy.
Yeah, fucking... I was having fucking breakfast. I get fucking 10 million calls. I'm like, yeah, I'll jump on. We said 10 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock.
You could have just shot me a message. You could have just shot me a message through. I wasn't trying to be annoying or anything. I would have left you alone.
I'm here now.
He's on there going, I'm going to call again. I'm going to call again. I'm going to call again on there. I'm going to text on the phone this time, not on Messenger.
But as much of a kick as I was getting out of ruining Aria's Sunday breakfast, it was with a purpose. Because for this episode, I had some ideas. Let's move on. But I was trying to work out what exactly I wanted to do for the next episode. And I was thinking back over all of the crazy things that had happened that might make a good episode. So I was thinking back and just going over all of the events where things had gone wrong. And I was like, okay, so there's been a few birthdays. Pretty much all of our weddings, they have been a nightmare at. And you know, I thought maybe we could do an episode where we look at how when the parents are at an event, things seem to go wrong. And I'm going to be honest here. When I planned this Sunday morning recording session with the sisters, I wasn't really sure what would come out.
You just know something's going to happen. Like, if the parents are there, something's going to happen.
I even started to question whether this was a good topic at all. I think I think there is something here, but I don't know. Maybe there's not. Maybe I mean, if not this, then what do we talk about today?
Mm.
Do we just let Arya go back to her Sunday breakfast in peace? But just as I was about to give up hope, as if gifted by a higher power, 5 magical words appeared, and everything made sense.
Well, that's it. There's always that anticipation because you're like, if I fight them, are they going to cause a scene?
Yeah, because they're habitual attention whoring event ruiners. So if you enjoy watching reality TV shows like My Super Sweet 16 or Bridezillas, or if you get excited when you notice the couple across from you arguing when you're out at a fancy restaurant, or maybe you're the type of person to slow down and hold up peak hour traffic to get a better look at the pileup on the side of the freeway, well then, if that's the case, you freak, then this episode is tailor-made for you. Because today we're talking about a pair of habitual, attention whoring, event ruiners. One thing that I do like about this topic is that I should be able to give equal time to both parents, because a predilection towards event ruining is something that they both share equally. And too often in recent episodes, Dad seems to hog all the spotlight, which has never been my intention. The plan has always been to explore our relationships with both parents equally. It's just that Dad's recent antics has seemed to pull all the focus. So maybe in the interest of evening things out, I'll start with a few examples from Mum this time. For a long time, like with my graduation, actually I didn't expect it at my graduation, so I'm not sure if that actually counts.
I don't know how you couldn't expect it at your graduation.
Yeah. I was like, geez.
I don't know, because I think it was just, I don't know, my graduation was like a 3-day cake party, so I think my graduation party is a good place to start. It's certainly not the worst example of Mum's attention whoring or her event ruining, but it gives a nice example of what weirdness might be expected. I think my thoughts were that, like, what could you actually do to mess with an epic, drunken...
3-day party.
Yes, exactly.
With your mum asleep on the couch.
and that's what you have to do, right? To have an effect on an event like that, you've got to really like pound them with the weirdness, because parties like that, they're full of weirdness, but no one expects to walk through the front door and then see some old hag passed out on the couch. And this is no exaggeration, because by 7 p.m. on the second night of celebrations, there was Mum, sprawled out by the entry in one of the main rooms in what was a very moderately sized uni student share house. What makes it worse is that she's snoring like a chainsaw, so every time there is a lull in the music, you can hear that in the background. And you might be thinking, come on, give your mum a break. She got excited celebrating her only son's graduation and had a few too many drinks. We've all done it at some point. And if that was the case, I would agree with you 100%. I would actually applaud her for that. I might even draw a penis on the old girl's forehead in permanent marker while she slept to give her the full college experience. But that's not what this was. In fact, she barely had a single drink that night. And the reason why she ended up asleep on that couch was out of spite.
I remember, you saying it was going to get crazy.
Yeah, well, that's how I pitched it to everyone. Like I said to the parents, it's my graduation. Of course I want you to be there, but it's going to be wild and you're not going to want to stick around for that. I even said the party starts the day before my graduation, so I'm probably going to be like pretty elevated when you get there.
You were wasted when we got there, because we showed you the cake and then you got there was like a life like heart on there, but we'd filled it with like edible blood, and you took up the heart and you bit into the heart and then the blood just squirted all over your face, and it was like fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I still got photos of that because I got the blood and I rubbed it all over my chest and face, and then I was running around trying to kiss everyone.
Oh God.
And that was before the graduation. I had to sober up before I actually went to the ceremony.
And so how does this work? So Ari, you went with Mum and then Dad came on his own, is that right?
No, Mum flew and I actually drove down with Dad and Mary.
Yeah, and then after the graduation ceremony, all of you came back to my place to party together, which was always part of the plan. That was fine. But then it came time for Mum to leave, and she saw that Dad was still there, and that clearly was bothering her, and then she didn't want to leave.
She changed her flight.
Yeah, she did change her flight. Even after I advised her that it wasn't a good idea for her to stay, she changed her flight. And of course, 15 minutes later, you and Dad and Mary all left anyway, so it made no difference. And probably 15 minutes after that, she was asleep on the couch. It's funny, because in the grand scheme of parental event ruining, Mum's antics here barely register. But at the time, I remember it pissing me off royally. And to be honest, even now, after all these years, I still get a little irritated when I think about it. She starts complaining that it's so loud. And I'm like, yeah, of course it's loud. It's a graduation party. What do you expect? I'm not going to turn down the music. You're the one who changed the flight. And then so she falls asleep and she's wearing this dress that's like, I don't know, showing off like some of her leg and stuff. It's kind of disgusting. And I'm at the back just like, because I just hit this thing where I was like, fuck it. I don't give a shit. If she wants to do that, I don't care. And people would come out and they'd be like, man, who's the old lady on the couch? And I'd be like, that's my fucking mum. And they're like, And they're like, is she okay? And I'm like, I don't fucking care. Whatever. She can do whatever she wants.
Jesus.
Wow.
It was disgusting.
Really compassionate there. Couldn't you have like put her up into a bedroom somewhere and said, look, Mum, I think you should go and sleep in my bed or whatever?
So she did sleep in my bed. So I did put her in there. But then the next morning, I'm waiting for her to leave because I've been up all night and I want to get some sleep because in 5 hours, we're going to start partying again. And so finally she wakes up and it's like, hallelujah, she's finally leaving. So I rip off all my clothes and jump in bed because I like to be naked when I sleep. But then also one of my friends, Lindsay, she jumps in bed with me as well. And it's not even anything sexual or anything like that. It's just, it was just to sleep. And she stripped down. She was like topless. I think she just had her panties on or whatever. But we were under the blankets, so it was fine. You couldn't really see anything anyway. And it all sounds very raunchy now when I talk about it, but at the time we were all sleeping in each other's beds, so it wasn't really a big deal. Anyway, so we both stripped off. We were just about to get in bed, and then the next thing, the door busts open, and then Mum just walks in, and we're both like naked in there. And then I'm like, Jesus. And I'm like, Mom, like, what are you doing?
Oh my God.
And then she's like, do you know how to get to the airport?
Oh God.
And then so I kind of like wrapped like a blanket or something around a cover and I said, maybe just look on your phone, get directions or something. But then she also didn't get that it was like awkward either.
She like sitting on the bed and you're like,
Yeah, you joke, but that's kind of what it was like.
What was the girl? The girl was like, fuck, you crazy mum.
She's like, who is this person in here?
It was truly awful. Looking back on this incident now, I'd say the key emotion that I see is anger. I was angry when it happened, and it still makes me angry now. But at the same time, the event wasn't ruined. If anything, it might have actually made it more memorable. But Mum does have the ability to literally ruin events too. Let's take a little peek at what that looks like.
Like, she did it at my best mate's 21st. She hijacked that.
How did she hijack that one?
Well,
I can't believe she went to your best mate's 21st. Sorry, keep going.
so I specifically told my best mate, don't invite my mum to your 21st. Like,
what a beautiful
her and
daughter
I-
you are.
Yeah.
oh,
Such a sweet girl.
I said, don't invite her. Her and I are not good at the moment, and like she gets a bit weird at social gatherings. And so it was literally the day before her birthday, and she bumped into Mum at the shops, and she's like, "Oh, your birthday's soon." And my friend goes, "Oh yeah, I'm having a party tomorrow. You should come." And then when she told me, I was like, "Are you fucking serious? Like, freaking, why did you invite her?" So anyways, me and Riggins had got a place at the resort that she was having the party, and I was just dreading it. I was just freaking out about Mum, and all of a sudden I start getting phone call after phone call from Mum. And so I picked up and Mum's like, "I'm here, where are you? Where are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I gotta go down." And she got there super early as well. And then I said to Mum, "Look, it's like my best mate's party. I'm going to have a few drinks and I can't like be with you the whole time. Like, you know, I've got to celebrate her 21st. I got to do a speech." So then Mum got the shits and started drinking, and then started like coming up to me and saying, what a horrible daughter I am. You know, you can't stay with your mother. I don't know anyone here. Why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. So I ended up getting really drunk,
As you do.
like really drunk.
Let's just get hammered to ease the pain.
So I'm doing like my best mate's speech and I'm like a bit drunk. I start getting cryy. Everyone's like, all right, good job. Like patting me on the back. They're like, she's fucking wasted. And then Mum's just throwing daggers at me, like so pissed off at me. So I ended up walking out of the room. I'm like, I can't deal with this, sitting on the couch. And then Mum comes up to me and starts like berating me, making me feel like shit. And I'm pretty sure Regan said, oh, can you just like leave her alone? Like, can you just leave? So then Mum cracked the shits and walked out and made a big scene in front of my mates and everything. It was awful. And then I ended up just going up and going to bed because it was fucked. But yeah, that was my best mate's 21st.
So while these are a couple of good depictions of Mum's event ruining and attention whoring, they aren't really the most consequential examples. I mean, an alcohol-soaked 21st and graduation aren't really what you would call pivotal events. It's not like one of those once-in-a-lifetime things or anything. The kind of thing that people spend months preparing for and half of their life savings. You know the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Like a wedding.
Your wedding's really bad.
All of our weddings.
I think everyone's weddings was pretty awful.
Yeah, it is true. They have managed to do something at all of our weddings. But I remember yours being particularly bad. Or maybe it's just because it was the first. Yours wedding was first, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and you were stuck in the States, I think.
No, I was in England.
Yeah, sorry, England. That's what I'm talking about. I was in the States. You were in England.
I actually was deported from England.
If you've been paying attention, this should sound familiar to you, because we discussed Ellie's deportation struggles in episode 3 of season 1 of this podcast. And if, by the way, you're listening now to episode 3 of season 2, without having listened to season 1, well then, I highly suggest that you stop here and do so right now. Because if you haven't noticed yet, all of these episodes are connected, even if you don't realize at first glance. That being said, the gist of the story is this. Ellie got deported from England, leaving her and her longtime boyfriend Bruce an ocean apart. Furthermore, when Ellie asked if she could stay with Mum, she was rejected. This is what that sounded like.
That was, no, Aria's got exams and you can't stay. And I was like, okay, this is great. So I literally am homeless.
This rejection left Ellie stuck in the city of Sydney without a long-term accommodation solution.
So I'm trying to, like, I found somewhere to stay and all that sort of thing. And then...
Hang on a minute. So where was it that you were staying?
So I'd found this place and it was like dorm rooms, basically. So you had a room and then you had this shared shower and shared...
Was it like a...
Yeah, like shared kitchen.
Like a backpackers?
Kind of like that, but you had your own room and you had your own lock. Like there was no...
You had your own lock?
I mean, there was...
What a luxury that must have been.
No, do you know what I mean? I mean, the doors will... you could lock it and whatever. But then I ended up getting a job like at the local supermarket, and I got some shifts there to do just to get myself by and earn some money and things like that. So it was...
So how long did this go on for? Like, how long did you live like this?
It was probably about, maybe say 3 months or something.
Clearly, this wasn't the happiest time for Ellie. But as shitty as things were, what made it worse was that she had to be separated from Bruce, her serious long-time boyfriend, who was stuck all the way back in England. Luckily, Bruce and Ellie did have a plan to remedy this problem. And also, this is where the event ruining begins.
Me and Bruce decided that the only way we're going to be together is to get married. So then, I went through and I started, like I was calling Mum and everyone and, and I said,
Just hold up a second here, because this doesn't line up with the story that I've been told. So Mum's always told me that she was the reason why you and Bruce got married. Because she said that she told Bruce that he had to marry you and he had to come and live in Australia. And that's the reason why the wedding happened.
Really?
Yeah.
She had never even met Bruce.
Did you hear that, Aria?
No.
Because Mum told me that you, Ellie, you were doing all this stuff to try and get your visa to get back to England, but then she wouldn't have it, so she spoke to Bruce to make sure that he came over here instead.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, she had met him. That's right, because we went to because we went to a wedding. That's why I came back.
I don't know who else she told this to, but that was the whole narrative around the wedding for me, was that Mum was the one who had sort of pushed it to happen.
But I mean, it's we could have talked about it. I mean, I don't really remember because I was that stressed out. Like some of the things, I was just like, oh my God.
I don't know how many of you out there have experience with planning a wedding, but it is stressful. And imagine doing it all alone, while living in a share house, with your partner not even in the same country. Well, that's what Ellie was facing. And to make matters worse, she had to deal with Mum
But
too.
before that, like, you know, just leading up to it, I just picked a random date. I think it was like a Wednesday because it was cheaper on a Wednesday, you know, as I said, I didn't really have that much money. And so then she was ringing me, and literally every day she'd be telling me off, and I'd start dreading her phone calls.
Man, as if weddings aren't stressful enough as it is, you got that to deal with as well.
It was tough. I was, you know, like as I said, I was that stressed out. Like my hair started to fall out because I was had Mum on me
Aw.
every day, calling me every second day, just tearing strips off me, saying what a terrible person I was, you know, like how bad I was. And as I said, I just kept crying. I was crying like pretty much every day up to the wedding.
Oh, sis.
So what exactly was she saying? Like, what type of things?
Oh, you don't like me. You hate me. Oh, you're doing all these things.
What things? Like, she says you're doing all these things. What things were you doing?
Well, this is the thing. Like, I wasn't involving her enough in like the planning and stuff like that, I think. But I couldn't because, you know, we didn't live in the same like town, like, you know.
Well, she could have let you stay there, but she didn't, so that's her own fucking fault, isn't it?
I think it sounds like she was trying to turn your wedding into her wedding.
Yeah. Oh, I want to help you pick a dress out, you know, like, and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, I can't, like, unless you come here, we just can't kind of thing. So it was, you know, it was the whole thing, you know, like helping pick a dress out. And I would have loved that, you know, I would have loved to have Mum there helping me pick it out and all this sort of stuff. But it's just.
Are you crazy? You wouldn't have loved that. That would not have been a good time at all. Like, it may have been a blessing that she wasn't closer, because she would have made things worse.
Yeah, that's true. I would have enjoyed it for the first like 5 minutes, and then been like, oh God, what have I done?
As you might imagine, months of daily phone calls ending in Ellie's tears was exhausting and more than she could handle. So finally, with just over a week until the big day,
Said,
it was time for her to make a stand.
Because I said, oh, Mum, you know, I want you to come to the wedding and blah, 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 you know. And then she went, oh, I don't think you want me to come to your wedding. And I was like, well, I do want you to come to the wedding. She went, oh, I don't think you want me there. You know, you just want your dad there and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, no, I don't. Like, I want you to be there. If I didn't want you there, I wouldn't have asked you. I don't have time to send out invitations, so I'm asking you, do you want to come, kind of thing. Blah, blah, blah. And she just went on and on about not wanting her there and all this sort of stuff. And then in the end, I just went, if you don't want to come, don't come. And then that was it. And I just hung up because I was like, you know what? I don't care. At that point, I'd had enough. I was so stressed out. I mean, that was the hell before the wedding, you know, like obviously she turned up.
Before I jump into Ellie's wedding reception, I want to take a second to go over something that I only really comprehended while doing the recording with Ellie and Aria for this episode. I'll show you the conversation before I comment.
I think, actually thinking back, I think Mum and Dad drove down to the wedding together with you, Aria.
Like, because I remember driving there with them.
And I think they shared the same hotel room. Did they share the same bed?
They did, because I was there.
Am I remembering this right? Were they definitely split up then? So I think, wasn't Dad living in the caravan at that point?
I think he was.
Yeah, he was.
He was, because I rang to see if I could stay with him and he said he didn't have room because he was staying in a caravan.
But at that point, Dad hated Mum. I remember that, clearly.
Yeah. It was just odd.
But then, why would they do that to themselves? Why would they put themselves through that? That doesn't make any sense.
I think they were just keeping up appearances for the wedding, maybe.
Yeah, they were still trying to be look like they were together. I think they were
Keep up appearances, yeah.
I think you're right, yeah, because I think they were trying to keep it a secret, but everyone knew about it.
It may be that keeping up the facade of a happy marriage when the truth is the exact opposite, is something that is common. But for me, this seems so ridiculous, especially at your daughter's wedding when it's clear to everyone attending that the two of you hate each other. Mum and Dad even sat at separate tables during the reception, and they certainly weren't near each other when Mum gave her infamous speech.
It was small, but the room overlooked the Sydney Harbour. It was beautifully set up. So the wedding was, in the end, it was really nice. It wasn't ruined or anything. But it's funny because we've talked about this before, but I don't think you don't remember Mum's speech, do you?
I do not.
I find it so strange that you don't remember.
Yeah, but it might maybe because the way they'd set up the room, I think we were quite far from where everyone was, if you know what I mean.
No, I get that, but the thing is that it was Mum's speech to you at the actual wedding. Like, she was looking at you and Bruce, like standing up in her chair talking, and so it's not something you would miss.
Yes, I know. Yeah, sorry, keep going.
Because what happened was you'd had the formal speeches, and then it came to the part where you open up the floor to all the guests to see if anyone has anything they want to say. And our Nana got up, and she says, "Look at Ellie. Look how beautiful she is. What a beautiful day, and what a beautiful young woman she's turned into." But a lot of that has to do with how amazing her mum has raised her. And then the speech devolved into this. It was for you, Ellie. It was about how wonderful you were, but it really was about how what you were was because of Mum. So it was really a speech for Mum. And she says, my daughter, she took her in, and then it was hard times, and she raised her. She put in a lot of work, and then even the day today, look at this beautiful wedding today. She deserves a lot of thanks for that as well. So let's raise a toast to the mother of the bride. And I remember I was sitting there, I was thinking, fuck my life, this is bad. And then to make matters worse, then Mum gets up, and Mum says, Yes, I did. I took her in. We went through some tough times, but it's all paid off because look at the woman she's become.
Sounds like an awful speech.
Man, it was a horrific spech. You remember it, right?
I remember Mum saying about the secretarial course.
Well, that was the next part, because then Mum's, after she gets through all of the other stuff, which goes for many minutes, then she says, there was a secretarial course, and I knew it would be good for her to do this course. But she didn't want to do it, and I had to force her to do it, and we argued about it, but I got her to do the course, and that made all the difference in her life. That really was what put her ahead of everyone else, so I'm so glad I went through all the fights to make her do that course.
She still, I think, goes on about that today, and I'm like, that secretarial course
She still does, yeah.
not worth the paper it was written on. It was, like, I'm serious, it was literally like one of those, a statement of attainment or whatever it is. You don't.
Aren't you a secretary now?
No.
So, well, what are you then? You're not a secretary.
No, I'm a project coordinator.
Ooh, isn't that a glorified secretary?
It is.
The bulldog face is back again.
A glorified PA.
Maybe my glorified PA role.
The other thing I remember at the wedding is you and Bruce had your first dance together, and you had the song playing, and it was really nice. And then Mum started singing along to the song really loudly, and I said, Mum, stop it. Everyone can hear you. Because you literally, everyone could, hear her singing the song really loudly.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a big deal. I think that's a pretty regular parent thing to do.
It was embarrassing. I was embarrassed. I won't forget that, because it's like your beautiful moment, and then you just hear Mum in the background going, eh, eh. It was awful.
What song was that?
She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5.
Yeah.
I like your version of it. It goes,
Well, I was trying not to do anything for copyright.
Oh.
Well, I think you succeeded, because I don't think anyone would ever mistake that noise that you made for music.
I don't know how much of a song I can sing or anything.
I think we'll be okay.
I've got no clue.
As you may recall, I mentioned earlier that I wanted to try and give equal time to both parents in this episode, a feat that I've struggled with in the past. So in the interest of achieving this goal, I'm going to take this opportunity to shift the focus away from Ellie's wedding here, but to an equally important event that took place several years later.
Mum's not bad, Dad is bad. At Ellie's wedding, it was Mum. Mum was the driving force there causing problems. But At your wedding, Aria, Mum was fine, but Dad...
He was not.
Yeah.
So I think he's got some jealousy towards Regan's family because, I don't know, like, Dad had some bad interactions with Regan's mum.
You're talking about the stuff that happened when you and Riggins first started dating, right?
Yeah, it was very...
I'm going to save us some time here and cut out some of the details of Dad's conflict with Aria's husband, Riggins' mum. But basically, the gist of the story is this. Early in the relationship, like back when they first started dating, there was some concerns that Riggins' mum didn't think that Aria was good enough to be with her son. Of course, this caused several arguments between the two of them, but essentially, within a few months, they managed to work out all of their differences in a mature and civilized way. And to this day, they are very close.
Yeah, and we've got, like, an amazing relationship now. It's just, I don't know, we misunderstood each other at the start because she comes on like she's like quite a strong lady and she'll tell you how it is, but she's actually like a really sweet person.
While Riggins' mum and Aria were able to make up and move on, the problem was that Dad could not get past this initial conflict and let it taint all of his future interactions with the Riggins family. Even one interaction that occurred just before Aria's wedding.
And it was lovely, and then Dad cracked the shits about that because they think they're better than me.
Yeah.
So he kind of verbally assaulted Riggins' mum.
What did he say to her? Did he call her a stupid fucking pig piece of shit?
Oh, jeez.
Just for context, I just wanted to say. Just trying to say.
He said that she was like a know-it-all bitch or something.
Oh no, it's pretty harsh.
Jeepers.
Not quite as
like-
bad as fucking pig, but yeah, it's still pretty bad.
Like along those lines of, you know, she thinks she's all that and she's not. She's not. She's, you know, she's nothing. She's not as good as she thinks she is. Like,
And what did she say?
she's pretty good in these situations. So she was very diplomatic and was like, "Oh, get over yourself, mate. Like, enough's enough."
As you might imagine, the Riggins' dad wasn't impressed with our dad's slights at his wife, and he was open with his disapproval.
Riggins' dad wanted to go over and beat the living shit out of Dad, so
But of course, the beating never happened,
they weren't good.
and nothing was resolved here between the two men, which would set the table perfectly for what would happen next, on the night before Aria's wedding.
And then everyone had arrived, and the guys all went down to the pub, and the girls were hanging out together at you got a
It was a house share, like a house. Yeah.
Airbnb.
Yeah, share house.
So the boys all went down to the pub, and Dad wore his "Don't Mess with the Russian" shirt, but like he was already, I don't know, it was a statement. But so they get there, and then Dad made a remark at Riggins' dad, and they wanted to, like, they almost got into fisticuffs. Like, they were having to be pushed back from each other, and Dad was like spitting words, and Riggins' dad was spitting words, and then
What did he say?
Riggins' dad confronted Dad and said, "Oh, how dare you say those things to my wife?" And Dad's like, "Well, she is a bitch."
Jeepers.
So, but I mean, that's not Dad going and attacking him. That's Dad just responding to him. So that's not really Dad so much. That's more Riggins' dad.
No, I think Dad did provoke it though, because like,
Doesn't sound like he provoked it to me.
but Dad went down there looking for it.
But what makes you think that he went down there looking for it?
Well, obviously wearing the t-shirt and stuff as well. Like, I mean, that's obviously...
I think he wears stupid t-shirts like that though.
Yeah, I know, but like to that sort of an event, I don't... Although he was right into his, like, slogan t-shirts at the time.
He loved the slogan t-shirts.
I don't know. I think this one, if you had to ask me, I think Riggins' dad probably started this one.
I don't know.
While Ellie and Aria seemed bent on the idea that it was Dad who was to blame for the scuffle.
I reckon he would have. I reckon he would have been putting in little digs here and there.
That's what it was like.
I could see him doing that.
I'm not so sure. But then again, all three of us get like this with the parents once in a while. Especially Aria. she has become increasingly bitter about Dad in recent times.
Dad instigated the whole thing. If he didn't say anything, nothing would have happened. Like, it would have been tense, but it wouldn't have been bad.
But in the end, it didn't actually matter who instigated the scuffle. It was over in a minute. But what did matter was how each side responded afterwards.
I didn't know this was happening until Regan's mum called me, and she's crying on the phone, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We've ruined it. Like, Regan's dad's caused this fight, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do all this." And I'm like, "It's fine. Whatever. I knew drama was going to happen. Probably better it happened the day before the wedding rather than at the wedding." And she's crying. I said, "It's all good." And she's like, "Don't hate me." And I'm like, "I don't. It's fine."
So Riggins' mum called and apologized straight away, which is good, right? So what was happening with Dad at this point?
She rang me and apologized, and Dad had just disappeared into the wilderness. And
so what did you do at this point?
And so I'm like trying to call Dad, and he's not answering. And then I finally get a hold of him, and sounds like he's wasted, like absolutely wasted. And then I'm like, come back here. What are you doing? And he's like, no, I can't. It's all ruined. They're fucking terrible. They think they're better than me. And, I stood up for you. And I'm like, well, just come back. It's fine. And he's like, no. I'm like, where are you? And he's like, I'm getting a taxi home. I'm like, come on, like, just come back here. This is stupid. And then he's like, really? You want me to come back? And I'm like, yes, just come back. And he's like, really? Really? Because, all this has happened. I'm like, just fucking get here. Like, fuck's sake.
Was he crying?
He was slobbery. He was just drunk. He was just like, blah, blah, blah,
And you might think that all of this is just classic drunk talk. You know, the kind of thing that you regret saying after some strong black coffee to sober up. But for Dad, this wasn't the case. And even after a night to recover, his opinion didn't change.
Then he was all high and mighty how amazing he is, that he stuck up for me, and that Briggins' dad deserved it, and, how good is he for sticking up for me, and, like, he's the hero.
That was his whole take on what happened?
That's how he was making out.
So what was he saying?
Like, yeah, I fucking told them, they don't speak about my daughter anyway, and they can't do all this, and, how good is it that I did that? Yeah, like, he was very happy with himself.
But then your wedding started a few hours later, and somehow everyone was fine. There was no issues.
Yeah, we just made sure they sat on opposite sides of the room.
Except for the beef jerky, right?
Oh, the fucking beef jerky.
God.
And of course, it wouldn't be a true Dad story without a touch of weirdness piped in from left field. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the beef jerky.
Dad, he had beef jerky in his pocket, and he was, munching on it, even when the photos were being taken. So all the photos that I have with Dad, like the professional photos, his mouth is weird because he's chewing on this jerky. And then I'm like, what the heck? What are you doing? And he's like, I have to chew on jerky, otherwise I'll say something. And I'm like, oh, fucking chew away, mate. Chew away. I'll have to show you guys some of the photos of Dad's mouth.
I've seen the photos, and I remember because you've been pissed off about it for years.
Because I'm like, oh, I have this lovely photo, and all the family looks great, and the dad's just like, oh.
If you've been paying attention so far, you might have noticed that I've given examples of the parental event ruining at both Ellie's and Aria's weddings. And from this you might conclude that next I'll be giving an example from mine. And it wouldn't be a bad guess. There is some pretty epic event ruining and attention whoring that took place at mine and Lily's wedding, and it is something that I would like to explore at some point. The problem is this: our wedding wasn't that long ago, and we are still living in the consequences of that event right now. So, in the interest of not picking at an open wound just yet, I'm going to continue with another personal, but not so recent of a story.
So right through high school, I was dating this girl called Brittany. So my relationship with Brittany, it was pretty much your perfect stereotypical high school relationship. We were best friends, and we were together for about 5 years, and we were pretty much inseparable. And to be honest, the parents were both cool about it, for the most part anyway. Because I remember we started dating when I was 14, and then somewhere around when I was 16, Dad's opinion of the relationship changed somehow.
I say here that Dad's opinion of the relationship changed, but I'm not sure if that's actually true. And it's only in retrospect that I've come to this conclusion, because outwardly, he was still acting the same.
Like, him and Brittany still had a great relationship, even quite a fatherly sort of relationship that he had with her.
And he never said anything outrightly negative about us being together either. But somehow, in private, he did start to exert some pressure.
I idolized the man, but he'd just start to say things in private, just between the two of us. Things like, yeah, so we know that you and Brittany are going to get married. And I'd say, are we going to get married? And he'd be like, yeah, we all know that's where it's going. So you are going to marry her, so you're going to have to start thinking about that. And I was like, man, I'm 16. That's not even on my radar yet.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it was a bit odd. And Brittany, she was extroverted. She was quite flirty. And then the way she dressed, she wasn't slutty or anything, but she would put a lot of effort into her appearance. And that being said, she wasn't 100% smoke show or anything, but she was decently hot. And then I remember me and Dad were out one day and we saw this girl, and she was, I don't want to say she was ugly, but she was aggressively average.
Bulldog face miniature.
Yeah, that's probably quite a good description of her.
Dad's style of girl.
Yeah, well, and then he says to me, he's like, do you see that girl there? That girl there, she doesn't look like much, but she'd be a good wife. You know, she'll take care of you.
She'll be great in the sack.
Yes. No, he didn't say anything about her being good in the sack, but he did say you're not going to have the same problems with her that you have with Brittany when you and her get married. And that's just one example. He'd always bring up things like that, just little digs here and there.
But it wasn't just with little verbal digs where Dad made his opinion known. And as time passed by, he started to find other ways to insert himself into mine and Brittany's teen romance.
But I remember Brittany had this thing for JTT, Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
And if it hadn't been obvious before, it probably will now.
He's the kid that was off that show Home Improvement with Tim Allen.
That this story takes place in the 90s.
Yeah, she was in love with him. And she had the walls of her bedroom plastered with pictures of him. And somewhere along the way, Dad found out about it, and he couldn't get past it. He kept saying to me, do you think it's okay that she's got those posters on her wall? Imagine if you had a picture of some girl all over your walls. Like, would that be okay? Do you think she'd be okay with that? And I was like, I don't know, man. The kid's a bit of a gimp. It doesn't really bother me any. And also, I just wasn't into girly pictures like that. Like, I always had movie posters all over my room. Then one day, Dad shows up and he says, I've got something for you. I'm like, okay, cool. And then he pulls out this massive poster of Christina Aguilera in this sexy outfit. And he's like, I bought you this poster to put up on your wall.
He's like messing with like 17-year-old children's lives.
Yeah, he was.
What the fuck's wrong with him?
Well, and then after I put it up on the wall, he straight out said, he's like, let's wait till Brittany comes and let's see her reaction to this, you know?
This is a grown man.
So weird.
Yeah. Well, and then so the next thing, Brittany comes over and Dad's waiting. He's like, let's see what she does. And then we go into my room and Dad's lingering the doorway watching. And then Brittany looks around and she says, is that Christina Aguilera? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And she's like, I just bought a new album. And then she's like, I think she's my favorite singer now. It was like the biggest, most epic fail of all time.
But whatever strange and unusual tactics Dad had for messing with mine and Brittany's relationship, they never worked. And when I look back on the 4 or 5 years that we were together, I remember them fondly, like I'm remembering a season of the TV show Dawson's Creek, which when I first watched it seemed edgy and important. But now it somehow feels innocent and nostalgic. Sure, we had our ups and downs, like any high school love story. But in the end, when we did break up, it was because the relationship had run its course, and it was time.
As we know, a big part of high school for me was playing guitar and singing and writing songs. And this one day, me and Brittany had spent the afternoon together, and things weren't going well between us. And it was clear to me that the relationship was done. And so the whole walk home, I had this song that I was composing as I was walking, and this has never happened to me before, but as soon as I got home, I went into my room, I grabbed my guitar, and then I played the song from start to finish. The song that I played is this song that I wrote, which is called "It's Over."
And if you're wondering what a song written by a 17-year-old Lucas about breaking up with his girlfriend sounds like, it's playing in the background right now.
I remember that song.
Yeah, well, you've all heard it. And so I always used to play my songs for Dad because he was very much into my music. And I think when I was playing that song for the first time, he was outside the room, and then I think I opened the door and he was there, and he sort of looked at me and then said, do you want to play that song for me? So I came in and sat down on my bed and then played the song for him. And I wasn't crying. Obviously, we know I'm not a crier, but I was very emotional when I played it. And then afterwards, Dad was like, is that about Brittany?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Brittany.
Well, yeah. And then so obviously I said yes about Brittany, and he could not hide the glee on his face. He was so happy that we were broken up.
Did you sing her the song?
Yeah, she heard that song.
I wrote you this song, Brittany, I love you.
I mean, it was...
While it was true, much to Dad's delight, that our time as boyfriend and girlfriend was over, it wasn't the end of our relationship. And we were still close for many years after the breakup. So close, in fact, that when I announced that I was planning a working holiday to the States as a camp counselor, it was Brittany who went to work organising a farewell/18th birthday get-together for me.
The party that Brittany was organising, it was more like a farewell than anything else, because even though I was only supposed to go for 2 months to work as a camp counsellor, I don't think anyone thought that I was going to come back, because, I don't know, I always felt like the surfy town was too small for me, and I was always destined to leave. Like I felt constricted there, and this summer camp job, it was my ticket. It was my way out of that town. And I made it clear to everybody. Like everybody knew that's the way I felt about it. And I did end up working at the summer camp for 4 years, so it did happen.
In Australia, the legal drinking age is 18 years old. And although this party was more of a farewell celebration than anything else, it was also a chance for me to finally drink alcohol legally at a bar. And I use the term legally here because the drinking culture for me growing up was very strong.
In Australia, 18, obviously that's when you can legally drink, even though I'd been legally drinking I've been illegally drinking since I was like 15 or something. And I think I was even drinking at home just regularly. I think at that point when I was 17, I was just allowed to drink at home, I think, because I think the parents just gave up or something. Yeah, it was just, I mean, I think about it now, like I drank a lot.
You did, and you'd always like be passed out in the lounge room.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, never again, Aria. I'm never drinking it. And then literally that night you're drinking again.
Yeah, like I was always at parties drinking, and the parents just knew about it, and that was the crazy thing too. Because I remember Dad just like giving me a beer one day. I was like 17 or maybe just turned 17 or something, and then he like gave it, and he's like, "It's fine. I know you drink. It's all good." And I'm like, "Okay." And then from that point on, I would just drink beer with him.
And I want it to be known that by this point, I wasn't some innocent little gimp ready to pass out from his first sip of beer. No. I was a battle-tested booze hound of the highest order, experienced with libations of all shapes and sizes. I was familiar with day drinking, night drinking, morning drinking, as well as drinking on the job site, and even drinking at school, which was alarmingly common in my senior years of high school. And I want you to know all this, not to brag, because I don't think any of this is a good thing, but because I don't want you to blame what happens next on my alcoholic inexperience.
And so Brittany had planned this crazy celebration, and I was working with Dad at the time plastering, so I was working with him all day. But then after that, the plan was for us to come home first, and then there was going to be some, like the family part of the celebration there, so it'd just be family.
Some of your mates?
No, the mates weren't, like there was no mates at the first. So first it was just at our house with just you and Mum and Dad. And then later we'd meet up with all the mates out at the RSL club.
There was friends there.
Was there?
So I remember there was a few people.
See, that shows how pear-shaped this all got, because I have no physical memory of any of this. I only know from what I heard later on.
We were waiting for you, and we were waiting, and Mum's trying to call you, and Brittany's trying to call you.
Well, and by then it was already too late, right? We'd gone past the point of no return.
And to sway us back on our event-ruining path, Here is how the events of my 18th birthday / farewell celebration progressed.
So I was working with Dad on the day of the party, and so we'd been working plastering together. And then Dad says, he says, "Oh, it's your birthday. Let's finish early and let's go have a pub lunch." I was like, "Cool, sounds great." And then so we went to the Scummy.
Nice.
Yeah, it literally was at the Scummy. And then so we get to the Scummy, and then there's 20 or 30 of Dad's mates there, like his workmates, which doesn't make any sense because we're talking about midday on a work day, so they shouldn't be at the pub for at least another 2-3 hours. And so I said to Dad, I'm like, "Why is there so many of your mates here?" And then he said, "They came for you. They came for your birthday. That's why they're here. They want to have a drink with you." But that didn't make sense either because, like, I knew them, but they were Dad's mates, like his workmates. I would never want to spend any time drinking with them or anything.
And with that, the drinking began. As one by one, every person in the crowded bar started shouting me schooner after schooner of the finest draft beer that the Scummy had to offer.
And so they set up this designated table that was just for my drinks. And on this table, beers start lining up. So I'm constantly double parked. So as I'm finishing one beer, I've got, my second and third one lining up on the table. And pretty soon, like within the first half an hour, I realized I was in trouble because, this is a demon pace and I did have another party to go to. And it's kind of the Australian mate code. If someone buys you a drink, you can't leave it or tip it out or anything. You have to drink it. And so I was looking for a lifeline. So I went to Dad and I said, "Hey Dad, this is a lot of beer. I don't know if I can drink all of that beer." Because I didn't want to say, I'm not drinking anymore and be a wimp or anything. I still wanted to give the illusion that I wanted to be there. I don't know. I guess I just hoped that Dad would sort it out for me. And then Dad says, "No, I understand. Yeah, you are right. It is a lot of beer." And I could see in his face, he looked a little disappointed, but at the same time, I could see that he understood. And I thought, okay, he's going to sort this out for me. This is good. And then he takes a beat to process. And then he says, "Okay, I know what to do. I know exactly what to do." And before I have a chance to respond in any way, he turns around and he addresses the entire bar and he says, "Hey, everyone, just want to let everyone know, Lucas doesn't want to drink any more beers. He just wants Bloody Marys from now on. So don't buy any more beers, just Bloody Marys." And then he turns back to me, he gives me a wink, and he's like, "There you go, Bloody Marys, easier on the stomach, tomato juice, the spices and stuff, So you'll be able to drink way more of those. All good." And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, Dad."
And as the line of drinks forming across the table turned from amber schooners of extra dry to red celery-filled Bloody Marys, I came to the harsh realization that some tough decisions needed to be made.
And I'm looking at my watch and I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be home for this party now. They're all waiting for me. And then I look back at the bar and Dad's having an amazing time. There's no chance that he's going to want to go home yet. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to call Brittany and I'm going to have to let her know that I'm going to be late.
So I remember we're there and there were some of your mates there and Brittany and Mum. And we'd gotten you like an assortment of presents and stuff and we're just waiting and everything's set up and we're waiting and there's no word from you and then Brittany and Mum are trying to call you and Brittany got a hold of you and then she gets off the phone and all I hear her say is, "He sounds wasted."
So I remember being surprised by how understanding Brittany was when I called her. She basically just said, "Just please don't stay too long because we are all waiting for you to come home. So, just be mindful of that." And then the other thing that I remember her saying was, just don't drink too much because we've got a big night that I've planned and there's a lot of people who are coming out to see you. So, just remember that. And I got off the phone and I really do remember thinking, well, I do want to be there. Why am I here? So then I went back to Dad and I said, I just got off the phone to Brittany and she just said that everybody's at the house waiting for us. So just wondering, are we going to get going soon? And then he got kind of shitty and he said, is it your birthday or is it Brittany's birthday? You know, are you going to do what she wants or are you going to do what you want to do? And of course, all the other drunk guys at the bar are like, yeah, fuck her. Do what you want to do. It's your birthday. And then I said, yeah, but I mean, it's not just Brittany. Like, Mum's there, Aria's there. You know, they're waiting for us. And he said, yeah, no, I get it, but surely we can spend at least another half an hour, right? Like, they can wait that long. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. We'll wait half an hour. That's okay, no problem. And he said, okay, cool. Well, I've got some tequila shots coming now, so we'll get through those and we'll have a couple more drinks, then we'll get going. And I think that's about the point that I black out.
So we're all waiting there, and it was like, yeah, exciting. And then you're not coming, and then the mood's just dropping more and more as the hours pass by. And then you arrive, and you're absolutely wasted, and you run straight up, and you're giving Brittany like this slobbery hug and kiss. And then Mum, this slobbery hug and kiss, and then me. And then you're like, hey, guys. And then we're excited. I'm excited to give you gifts, and I'm giving you the gifts, and you're like opening them. And like, I don't know, there was some like undies in the gifts. So you're like putting them on your head and you're like smiling like, hey, look at me. Hey.
I normally do that though. That's pretty standard for when I get gifts.
Yeah, but that's what it...
Like I always put, I mean, if I get gifts, I always put them on
your head.
On my head, yeah, usually.
So we bring the cake out to you, and then you're like, oh my God, the cake. And you just hold the cake up and then just take a bite out of the side of the cake, like mush your face in, and you like start biting into it.
So I do have vague recollections of the night, but I remember none of that at all.
It was everywhere.
What was Mum doing?
I'm pretty sure Mum immediately started getting pissed at Dad as well. It was very hushed because there was people around, but I'm pretty sure it was like, the hell have you done? Like, he's really drunk. Like, we had the party organised. We've been waiting. Like, stuff like that.
I do vaguely remember feeling like people weren't very impressed by my state and trying to overcompensate and show people how fine I was. I do remember that.
I remember you sitting on the staircase of the veranda going, everyone's angry at me because I drank too much. And then you're like, do you want some drink? Just drink some. And I'm like, no, I don't want any.
Jesus.
I'm like a child. And you're like, just drink some. Just have a little bit. I won't tell anyone. I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm like, no, I don't want any.
I would have been joking for sure. Come on.
No, you wouldn't. Like, if you were that wasted, you would have been like, come on. Have some with me.
If I was wasted, maybe, yeah.
Contrary to what you're hearing here, I am in fact opposed to underage drinking. At least, I am now. And I can't really remember if I was joking with Aria here or not. But what I can remember is this. While this night had turned into a disaster, it had only just begun. And the worst of it, the part that still makes me cringe to this day, was still to come.
So I'm not sure of the timeline here. I think it's probably a few hours later, because it's just me and Dad and Brittany left on the back porch together. And I think everyone else had gone at this point. And I'm also starting to remember things here, so I think I've had maybe a bit of time to sober up a little bit. But I remember Brittany says, okay, I'm gonna head into town now because they're all waiting for me out there, so I'm gonna go out there and then let them know what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Yep, let's do it, let's go. She's like, no, Lucas, you can't come, you're not gonna get in anywhere. And I said, no, I think I'm okay, right? Like maybe I just brush my teeth and then I think I should be good. She's like, no, you're not. Like, you're really wasted. You're not going to get in. And I think by this point, I was past the hypo crazy drunk stage. I kind of was getting more into the depressive stage. So I probably put my head down and went, yeah, okay, no, that's fair enough. Maybe like a little bit defeated. But then Dad steps in and he's like, how fucking dare you tell my son what he can and can't do? And he's furious and he's pointing all his aggression straight at Brittany. But Brittany's straight back at him. And she's like, well, if you hadn't pushed all those drinks on him, then we wouldn't be here right now, would we? And that's too much for Dad, because then Dad smashes his fist down the table and all the glasses jump and tip over. And he's like, what did you say to me? And I think I black out here because I remember a lot of screaming. I remember Brittany crying, but none of it's very clear. And the next thing that I remember clearly his dad, he's cracking open a beer and he's passing it to me. And he's saying, don't worry about that. We don't need her anyway. And I remember thinking, need who? And then I say to Dad, where's Brittany? And he's like, she's gone. Fuck her. Don't even worry about her. I'm like, no, I need to find her. Is she okay? And he's like, don't even worry about it. I was like, no, I need to find her. And I start freaking out and I'm trying to get away, but Dad's like holding me and he won't let me go. And I'm struggling and I'm pushing and I manage to break through. And then I run through the house and I'm just looking for Brittany and she's nowhere. So I grab my car keys off the hook and I run down, I jump in my car and I'm off and I'm driving and I'm searching for Brittany. And I don't know where I'm going. I'm just driving down the streets trying to find her. But as I'm driving, I'm so wasted that I keep driving up the gutter. So I'll go up the gutter and then I'll stop and I'll turn myself back to the road again.
Oh my God.
I know, it's so fucking stupid. And I do this for I don't know how long. But then I realize, Lucas, you're in big trouble here. You're either going to crash the car or you're going to get arrested. And so I make this decision, okay, you need to get home and you need to get home safe. So slowly and carefully, I drive the car back home again. But I keep drifting off because I'm so wasted. I remember sort of having to slap myself around and be like, no, focus. And then I manage to get the car back. I get it in the driveway and I head off down the road in search of Brittany. And that's the last thing I remember.
But it wasn't really the last thing. Not yet, anyway.
So I open my eyes and I don't know where I am. And I'm looking around. So first thing I notice is that I'm lying on a makeshift mattress on the floor that's been made for me. And then the next thing that I notice is that it's a small room with a computer in the corner. And I'm like, okay, I'm in a computer room, someone's computer room. And then I look around and all over the walls are pictures of Buddha. And then it all makes sense. And I'm like, okay, I made it to Brittany's place last night because Brittany's parents are Buddhist and I'm in their computer room, which is also their prayer room. So I got my shit together. I got up. I walk out of the computer room. And then when I go out into the kitchen area, Brittany's parents and Brittany, they're all waiting out there for me. And then Brittany rushes over and she gives me a hug and she's got tears in her eyes. And then her parents are really nice. They're like, good morning, Lucas. And like, here's some breakfast. And then so I say, look, I'm really sorry about last night. And they're like, no, you don't say sorry. This isn't on you. This is on him. This is all his fault. Don't you dare blame yourself for this. I'm like, here we go. This is going to get weird now.
Oh
And then they're pulling out this breakfast and they're like, have breakfast with us. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm just gonna go home and face the music. And they look at each other and you can see they're a bit panicked and they're like, is that a good idea? Is it safe for you to go home?
Oh my God.
I know, it felt like I'd woke up in a cult or something. And then so I'm like, no, it's fine. I'll grab my stuff. I'll just get going. And they're like, you can see they're just looking at each other like, oh my God, are we going to let him leave? Is this okay? And so while they're doing that, I hook it out of there and I go in the computer room to get everything ready. And Brittany follows me in there. And she starts telling me the whole story of the night and about how she'd been out in the city with everyone. And then she got a call from her parents and they said that she had to come home immediately, but they wouldn't tell her why. And then when she gets home, they tell her that Dad had called her parents looking for me. And when they told him that they didn't know where I was, because they didn't know where I was, Dad said that they were lying and he said he was going to go over there. He was going to beat the fuck out of her dad and he was going to kill him.
Holy shit.
Oh my God.
Did I not tell you guys about this?
No.
I thought you knew. Anyway, so they weren't lying when they said they didn't know where I was. Like, no one knew where I was. But then when Brittany comes home, she sees that I'm asleep on their front porch, like outside their front door. And I'm so drunk that they can't wake me up. They try to stir me, but I'm completely out of it. And that's why they put me in the computer room. And the whole time they're setting me up in there, the phone just keeps ringing and ringing because Dad just keeps calling and calling, but they don't answer the phone because they're too scared,
Yeah, it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, well, it was so terrifying that when I woke up that morning and saw them, the whole family had been awake all night. They literally sat up all night waiting for Dad to come.
Oh my God.
Is he like sitting at the window, like waiting for him to come with his baseball bat? Oh my goodness.
No, it was an axe handle. He was sitting up with an axe handle. I remember seeing it in the doorway when I left.
This is terrible.
When I set out to make this episode and expose the parents for the attention-whoring event ruiners that they are, I made myself a list of things I needed to include. One of the points on this list reads, give equal time to Mum and Dad. which I mentioned earlier, and I'm happy to say I believe I have achieved. Another point reads, cross a spectrum of importance, and having recounted events ranging from my 18th birthday to wedding receptions, I'm happy I've achieved this too. In fact, as I go over the list now, I can see that every single point has been covered. Every single point, that is, except for one. And ironically, the one point that is left behind is also the first one that I wrote. It simply reads, you have to talk about Christmas.
This Christmas, I would have been late 20s. Aria, you probably would have been about 18, I think, maybe just turned 18.
I think that was the first Christmas that everyone was coming, though. Like, even our cousins.
Yeah, and it was the first Christmas with Mary since they'd started dating too.
And she's like really getting to know her.
Yeah, Dad had been with her 9 months, I think, and it was very much like announcing themselves as a couple to everyone. And the whole weekend turned to shit immediately. Because I remember I had this thing at the time where whenever there was an event, I would always bring one of my girlfriends with me.
Yeah, you had many a girlfriend.
Yeah, and I don't know why I used to do that. I think it was...
It's like a security blanket for you.
Yeah, I guess it was like that. And anyway, and this time the girl that I bought was Lucy, and she was a bit of a weird chick.
She was, though. She was a bit of a weird.
She was, definitely. Yeah, and then so me and Lucy, we walk around the side of the house to go and surprise everyone. I walk around, I'm like, surprise, I'm here, Merry Christmas. And no one even notices me because Dad and Cara are screaming at each other because they're having this argument over a tarp being put up that was for people that were camping in the backyard. And it's such a huge argument that Cara's sobbing, and then she storms off. And Lucy's like, is this okay? And I'm like, don't worry, this isn't that unusual. Let's just grab a drink and just chill. It'll be fine. And then I remember by the time I got a drink and then took a swig, somehow you, Ellie, you and Bruce had arrived, and you'd already spoken to Cara, and the two of you were not happy.
I know, we're so excited to come in, like to get there and stuff, and then we get there, and then it's just like it's Shitsville when you get in there. I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
I know it doesn't sound like much, a little misunderstanding over a tarp, but it did put a feeling of unease on the occasion, an unease that would continue.
That's right. I arrived just as Ellie and Bruce were arriving, I think, and I'm like, oh my God, everyone's here. This is so exciting. And then I'm like, where's Cara? Where's Cara? And it's like, oh, she's in the room crying. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, but she did get over it reasonably quickly, like, and like her and Dad made up. But then I remember the next thing that happened is I had discovered this indie 3-part musical that Joss Whedon had created during the writer's strike and released online. And it was this not very well-known campy musical with Neil Patrick Harris and Nathan Fillion. And I was super keen for you, Aria, to see it. You remember that, right?
Yeah, you've been talking about it a lot.
Yeah, well, that's very our relationship. That's the type of thing that we would watch and love, and everyone else would think that we were weirdos.
Yes.
Yeah, and then so, anyway, we get in the room there, we put the show on, and then you've got some chips in a bowl to snack on.
They're in the
And the
bag.
chips weren't even in the bowl, they were unopened in the packet.
Yeah, and then you, like, went to open the chips, but then Mary sees from the other room, and then she comes in, she says, oh, sorry, no eating in the lounge room.
No food on the couch.
Yeah, which is kind of shit.
But we'd always eat on the couch, like pumpkin seeds and all of that.
Yeah, and we're not kids. We're not going to wipe our hands on the couch or.
No, and it's Christmas time.
Yeah.
And so Aria, she does this thing where she like rolls her eyes and she goes like, ugh, and she throws the chips down on the table.
I flung it like with my fingertips.
Yeah, but when she throws it down on the table, it doesn't just stop and land on the table. It slides off, doesn't it?
Does it?
Yeah, it slid off and went onto the floor.
It literally slides off and onto the floor. So it looks like she's thrown it with some force and been like, oh, fuck this, you know. She's had a full-on tanty.
Yeah. But then we go back to watching the show. Everything seems fine. But then, like, a minute later, Dad storms in and he starts going off. And I can't remember what he says exactly.
This is Mary's house.
Yeah, that's it.
She owns this house and you're allowed in her house, but these are the rules that she's made and you need to respect that. I said, this is your house, Dad. And I said, we've always eaten on the couch.
Listening to Aria recount the interaction, you might get the impression that it was little more than a heated conversation. But having witnessed it firsthand, I can tell you that this interpretation is wrong, and that this was a full-on verbal war, with Aria, Dad, and Mary all screaming over the top of each other to be heard, while Ellie and I watched in disbelief.
Just remember sitting back and watching all this unfold because I was just like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, it was super entertaining. But the best part was how it ended. Because Arya, she looks straight at Mary and she just says, "You're not my mother."
You're not my mother.
And then she storms out to the front door and drives off.
You're not my mother.
No, way more aggressive than that.
You're not my mother.
I don't think you're going to get it. But what I do remember is that after you left, I turn around to look at Lucy and she's like sobbing and crying. And I was like, what the fuck are you crying about now? And she says, she's like, it's so emotional.
It was so funny because she just starts bawling her eyes out. Like,
As absurdly over the top as the argument had been, with some coaxing, Arya was able to get over it and move on.
You just said, "Oh, go in and apologize, and we'll keep at it." And then I'm like, I don't want to apologize to her.
I really wanted to watch Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. Like, I really wanted to watch it.
I know you kept saying, "Come on, we're gonna watch
Yeah.
this." And then so eventually I went up to Dad and Mary and apologized, and then they were like, "That's very big of you to apologize. I really appreciate that." And then I was like, "Sweet, done. Let's sit on the couch and watch this show."
But as much as Arya was able to forgive and forget, the argument had stirred up some questions within our sibling group.
It was after that chip throwing packet thing, when Dad said that it was Mary's house now. Like, at the time we didn't question it, but then after that, Dad kept mentioning that it was Mary's house as well now.
Not as well. It's just Mary's house. It's Mary's house.
it's Mary's house, yeah.
And then there's rules about eating on the couch all of a sudden, and like different things. And it's like, geez,
yeah.
it didn't feel like Dad's house anymore. It felt like we were in some stranger's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember getting together and we were like, "Fuck, Dad, we get it. You're happy with your new girlfriend, but you're really taking it to the extreme."
And then only been together like 11 months or something. It wasn't long.
No, and then so that night when we were sitting around the table, like having a few drinks, we brought it up and we're like, Dad, what is the deal with this? Mary, it's Mary's house now. And then he's like, "It's because of your mother. She's financially crippling me." And then we were like, "Well, so what? She's helping out with the bills and things." And he's like, "You don't know how much she's helping me. If it wasn't for her, I'd be out on the street right now." And we're like, "Dad, well, if you're struggling, we're happy to help out."
Yeah, like we were like, we're happy to make some payments for you. Like you can still live here. You, like, don't feel like we're gonna take it. We'll make the payments so you can stay here. You know what I mean? Like we'll chip in.
Yeah, and there's like 4 of us, so it'd be easy. We split it up between the 4 of us, and conceivably that house would eventually come to us anyway. So we said, it's fine. We're just investing in our future anyway. So,
But Dad wasn't interested in solutions like these. The type that is sensible and well thought out, without any emotional casualties. And as the night progressed, and with Mary's backing, the only solution that they seemed interested in was one that was at the expense of Mum.
like that. Aria, do you remember exactly what it was that he said?
That the back pay from child support is crippling him and he can't keep going on like this, and we need to put an end to it. We need to do something as a family. We need to sort this out because otherwise he's not going to be okay.
Yeah, and I bought into it straight away. Like, me and Kara, I think, were both like, we have to go and do something about this now. But I think you, Aria, and Ellie, you didn't want to.
Yeah, I didn't want to deal with this. This was way above me.
Because I wasn't going to go.
But also, sorry, Dad kept saying, all 4 of you need to go. You need to go as a unit. You all need to go. He was really adamant.
Yeah, it was a really heavy conversation. Like, I really remember feeling like there was real stakes involved and something had to be done.
But also, Dad was saying, if you guys don't do this for me, I'm going to go and kill her.
That's right.
Yes.
And because
Yes.
we were,
And that's what yeah.
I had my issues with Mum, but I didn't want to go and confront her. I just had a confrontation with Dad and Mary, and I was like, this is too much, and I don't want to do this.
And and then I think we all sort of sat round, and I don't know whether Dad had gone to bed or whatever, and we all sort of sat and we started talking about it, and then we were all concerned because I was like, well, I don't want him to go over and kill her. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is not right. Like, maybe we should say something. even though I thought it was like the worst idea ever, I didn't want to go.
And as 4 siblings piled into a sedan on the side of the road on the morning after Christmas to pay a visit to the woman who had raised them, there was a clear dividing line between us.
I just can't. Like, I felt so bad about it. I felt it was just the wrong thing to do. Like, it was just for me. I was just like, nah.
I wish I felt like that, because I really believed that Mum was completely to blame and that Dad was justified in the things that he was saying. Even about killing her, like, I believe that she brought it on herself and something needed to be done. So I remember you and Aria, you two were quiet and you really didn't want to do it, but then me and Kara were the 2 stronger personalities. And we were both, it's disgusting, but I think we were joking about it. I think we were quite happy and excited. I don't know. It's like when you think about like an angry pitchfork mob that's lost the ability to see whatever they're after as human. You know, I think I'd completely othered Mum in this occasion.
We parked the car in the driveway next to Mum's, and I bounded up the front steps and rapped on the front door, with the sisters lagging behind.
She was happy to see us, right? She was, she came to the door and she's like, "Merry Christmas," She had no idea what was coming.
She gave us presents.
Jesus.
It was really awful.
She gave us Christmas presents.
Because then I walked her inside and I said, "Ma, we've got something we need to talk about. This is very important. Now you just need to listen and we've got to tell you this." And we knew straight away that she knew something was coming, because she does this thing when she feels threatened. It's like a wild animal, like that thing with her teeth. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
It's like a wild dog or something when it gets angry and it's the top lip. It curls up and it shows its fangs and its gums, but it looks like it's involuntary, like just the lip is moving, none of the rest of the face.
She does.
It's scary though.
If she would have been making noise, it would have been...
It's not like violent scary, it's like psycho scary.
It's a weird thing.
For all of its build-up and posturing, in the end, the actual verbal interaction was brief, and for the most part, it was conducted by me.
But then I just went straight to it and I said, "Ma, Dad's going to lose the house because you keep taking his money. You keep hitting up for child support. You need to stop this now and leave him alone. And if you're not willing to do that, then we want nothing to do with you." And I don't know. I can't remember what she said. What did she say?
She was just saying, "You have no idea what you're talking about. This is between me and your father, and like he shouldn't have involved you guys like this. This is nothing to do with you."
Yeah.
Which is completely right.
Which is 100% correct.
Why did he involve us in this? Like, apart from just getting revenge on Mum, is that the only reason he did this?
And as I listened to my sisters recount their memories of the
We
day,
just like held each other, and I was holding your hand or something and crying,
Yeah.
and how it affected them,
I actually locked myself in a room and just burst into tears and just cried for ages, because I felt so bad internally as well. I was just like, we're so wrong. This is not right. I just couldn't deal with it.
and after all the talk of attention whoring and event ruining, it dawned on me. This is probably the most hurtful thing that I've ever done. I disowned my mother on Christmas, and I was serious about it too. So serious that afterwards I didn't speak to her for 2 whole years. What must that have been like for her? It's a targeted and organised attack from her own kids after she had just spent Christmas completely alone. It must have felt like she lost her family. Reliving all this has got me second-guessing some things. Most of all, this podcast. And if my motivations are as pure as I would like to think they are, am I giving an equal and unbiased review of our family history? Or am I just using this platform that I have created as a way to drag my sisters along while I hurl abuse at the people that I'm supposed to care about the most, in the same way that I did on that Boxing Day morning? Especially with Mum. That woman is so impossible to comprehend. I don't know if it's even ethical for me to try to. But What if there was a way for me to understand her? What if I could put in the work and do the research and find the reasons behind her actions? Could I then regain my confidence in this little family project that brings me and my sisters together every month? Could I find the meaning in all of this madness? Coming up on the next 2 episodes of Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire, we dig deep into our mum.
So the criteria for what borderline personality disorder is present in a variety of contexts as indicated by 5 or more of the following traits. So if mum is a positive to 5 of these, then it's a positive diagnosis.
Yes, I did see a psychologist.
Why did you go?
I don't know, I was just anxious all the time, and I had an incredibly terrible relationship with
What
Mum.
about you, Ellie? Did you ever get any therapy?
No, to be honest, I probably should have done some, but no, well,
And it's why I'd never go to therapy. It's because I have such an issue with being the victim. I'm not the victim.
It definitely isn't how you think it would be at all.
My name is Terry Bly. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I work for a place called Lynn Lake Centers for Wellbeing here in the Twin Cities.
That's coming up on Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire. If you enjoyed today's episode, or if you think that you might want to be part of a future one, please let us know about it in the email or Reddit links that are in the description. Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire is produced, recorded, and edited by me, Lucas Shaw. Thanks for listening.